All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our NBA video here today for Wednesday, April 7th. Happy hump day to you guys. The weekend's right around the corner. My name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to save yourself some time and you don't feel like watching the entire show, all my picks for this video can be located at the end of the video in my quick pick recap segment. All you have to do is click the timestamp in the comment section below to get all of my picks for this video in about 30 seconds. And if you end up really enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you're new here and you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please feel free to do that right now as well. I'd love to connect with you. I'd greatly appreciate it if you did that here for me. And with that, guys, got ourselves a pretty good slate of NBA action here today, so let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to start with the T-Wolves taking on the Pacers. 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Indy. The Indiana Pacers are the 2-point favorite. Totals 230.5. And if you like Minnesota in an upset on the road here, they're plus 105 on the money line. Now, guys, we went a perfect 5-0 yesterday in all of our 5 premium sports picks on my Patreon website, and I certainly needed it because I paid the tax man yesterday. Didn't feel good, but I'll tell you what did feel good, winning 5 games. That certainly helped pad the bankroll a little bit. And of course, that's going to improve our record to 8-3 in our last 11, $1.99 daily best plays on that Patreon page. We're also hitting at 74% in our last 31 extra daily picks on that Patreon site as well. We currently have over 1,200 members who are signed up and active on that site. And if you want to find out which one of these picks on YouTube I'm actually betting on personally, link for that Patreon site is in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. And I'll tell you what, despite an absolute just horrid first half of the season, we're looking at a Minnesota team who won 2 out of their last 4 ball games, and they've done a pretty nice job covering the number recently as well. The Timberwolves have successfully covered the point spread in 5 out of their last 7 contests. Now, guys, great news. D'Angelo Russell, he's been upgraded to probable, so most likely going to see him in action tonight. That's great news for Minnesota backers as well. The T-Wolves have done a fairly good job scoring on the road. And as a matter of fact, the T-Wolves currently lead the NBA in second quarter scoring away from home. Karl Anthony Towns is scoring 24.5 points per contest, 11 boards, 4 assists for the center. Meanwhile, Anthony Edwards is dropping over 17.5 points a game himself, 2 rebounds, 5 assists for Edwards. Now, they're taking on an Indiana squad who lost 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they've been absolutely just awful at home this year. Out of the Pacers' 23 home games this season, they've gotten the W in just 8 of those contests. They've gotten the W just 8 times in 23 home games. They've also successfully covered the point spread in just 26% of those 23 home games as well. The Pacers have struggled to get rebounds all year long. They're in the bottom 3 in offensive rebounding, bottom 10 in defensive rebounding. Now, the worst part about tonight's contest, Indiana's top scorers are all injured. Brogdon, Sabonis, and Turner, they're all questionable for tonight's action. When it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of Indiana's last 4 stayed under the number, 5 and 4 to the under in their last 9. Meanwhile, Minnesota went 4 and 1 to the under in their last 5 themselves, 70% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Minnesota Timberwolves plus 2 and the under 230.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Wizards versus the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern start. Washington is minus 3, totals 222. The Wizards' leading scorer, Bradley Beal, he's been listed as questionable for tonight's action. Lopez and Hachimura, they're both questionable as well for Washington. Now, the Wizards are on a 4-game losing streak, 2-7 straight up in their last 9. Now, these guys give up a ton of points as well. 119 points a game they're giving up, which is last in the NBA. They also play quite poorly on the road as well. Just 7-16 straight up when they travel. Now, they're taking on an Orlando squad who's quite depleted themselves, but they've really managed to do a fine job covering the number lately. Orlando's 6-1 against the spread in their last 7. 70% against the number in their last 10. And for as bad as they are, the Magic also, they have a winning record against the spread at the Amway Center. They're covering 56% of their games as the official home team. Now, Terrence Ross is scoring 16 points a game for the Magic, 3 rebounds and a couple assists for the shooting guard. Meanwhile, Wendell Carter Jr. is scoring 15 points a game with the Magic himself. Nice little start here with his new team. Now, Carter Williams, Birch, and Anthony, they've been upgraded to questionable, so there is a possibility you could see those guys in action here tonight. When it comes to the total in this one, Orlando's 13-12 the under on their home court. Washington is 15-8 to the under when they travel. I'm going to lean toward the Orlando Magic +3 and the under 222. Next ball game, Knicks, Celtics, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Boston Celtics are -3.5, totals 209. Now the Celtics have lost 3 out of their last 5. They're currently 1 game below 500 thus far in the season as well. The Celtics have struggled with offensive rebounding this season. They're in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding at home. They've also struggled defensively in the second half. They're in the bottom 10 defensively in third quarter points allowed, bottom 10 defensively in fourth quarter points allowed as well. Now, Kemba Walker is listed as questionable. Really bad news for Boston fans there. Evan Fournier is in COVID protocol as well. Now, Boston is taking on a Knicks team who leads the NBA defensively in points allowed and defending the 3 ball. New York allows only 103 points a game when they travel, and they're holding their opponents to just 32% shooting from beyond the arc in that same category. Julius Randle scoring over 22.5 points a night, 10 rebounds, 6 assists for the starting forward. Meanwhile, RJ Barrett scoring 17 points a game himself, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for Barrett. New York's been doing a fine job covering the number when they travel. They cover nearly 60% of their contests away from home. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, oddly enough, I actually think this line is set a little bit too low, a little bit of kind of an over-exaggeration here. New York's last 2 straight did get over the posted total. Meanwhile, Boston saw games with Milwaukee and Memphis get over the line recently themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Knicks +3.5 in the over 209. Next contest, it is going to be Pelicans versus the Nets, 7:30 p.m. Eastern tip-off. The Brooklyn Nets are -9, totals 231 flat. Despite the absence of James Harden here tonight, Kevin Durant's probable for tonight's action. Looks like we're going to see KD, getting some minutes here today. And, keep in mind, Brooklyn's won 7 out of their last 9 without KD. These guys have been winning a lot of games without their star player. And as a matter of fact, Brooklyn still remains in the top 3 in scoring on average per contest. And they actually lead the NBA in offensive field goal percentage. Now, Kyrie Irving scoring 28 points a night, 4 rebounds, 6 assists for the starting point guard. Meanwhile, Joe Harris is scoring over 14 a game himself, along with 3 rebounds. The Nets are draining nearly 40% of their three-pointers at home. They're also 21-6 at the Barclays Center. They're taking on a Pelicans team who dropped 3 out of their last 4. They look pretty banged up right now. Ingram's doubtful. Hayes and Lewis are questionable. The Pelicans simply cannot win on the road this year. They've been winners of just 8 out of 23 road games. They're also giving up a bunch of points when they travel as well. 116 points a game on the road. 42% shooting from beyond the arc they're allowing on the road as well. So just keep those factors in mind. Now, total-wise, this actually does seem like a relatively modest number in my opinion. 3 out of New Orleans' last 4 did get over the line. They were also 33-17 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Nets are 30-21 to the over themselves, 70% to the over in their last 10 meetings with the Pels. I'm going to lean toward the Brooklyn Nets -9 in the over 231. Next ball game, it is going to be Mavericks versus the Rockets, 8 p.m. Eastern start time. The Dallas Mavericks are -11.5, numbers 222 juice to the over. Now, the Mavericks have been solid as a rock when traveling this year. 16-11 straight up on the road, 16-11 against the spread in those road games. Now, Dallas has also played really good defense away from home as well. They're in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage on the road, and and they're allowing just 108 points per contest in that same category. Despite the absence of Cauley-Stein, Terry, and Redick here this evening, we're most likely going to see Kleba and Porzingis back in action here tonight. The most important of all these guys on the Mavericks squad, Luka Doncic. He's scoring over 28.5 points per contest, 8 rebounds, 8 assists for the starting guard. Meanwhile, Kristaps Porzingis is scoring over 20 points a game himself, along with 8 rebounds. Now, the Mavericks are currently 7 games above 500. They're taking on a Rockets team who's a bleak 24 games below 500, and they simply can't win games at the Toyota Center. Houston's just 6-19 straight up on their home court, and they successfully covered the point spread in just 20% of those home games. Houston also cannot rebound. They just can't get boards. They're last in the NBA in defensive rebounding, bottom 3 in the NBA in offensive rebounding. Now, Wall and Bradley are questionable. Brooks, House, Gordon, Nwaba, and Exum, they're all still out for the Rockets. Nothing really changing there with those guys. Now, total-wise, Houston saw 5 out of their last 9 stay under the number, 17-8 to the under on their home court. Meanwhile, the Mavericks saw their last 4 straight stay under the total themselves, 7-2 to the under in their last 9. I'm going to lean toward the Dallas Mavericks minus 11.5 and the under 222. Next ball game, still in the 8 o'clock slate here. I'm talking about the Hornets versus the Thunder, 8 o'clock East. The Charlotte Hornets are minus 5.5, totals 214. Now, the Hornets have won 5 out of their last 8 ball games, 75% against the spread in those 8 contests as well. The Hornets have played exceptional defense in the second half of their ball games this season. They're actually in the top 5 defensively in third quarter points allowed. They're even in the top 10 in fourth quarter points allowed as well. And despite the absence of Gordon Hayward here for, well, a significant period of time, really has had bad luck with ankle injuries. But despite the absence of Hayward, Terry Rozier, he's still scoring over 20 points a game for Charlotte, 4 rebounds, 3 assists for Rozier. Meanwhile, Devontae Graham's also dropping nearly 14 a night himself, 2 rebounds, 5 assists for Graham. Now, they're taking on a struggling OKC organization who has committed to rebuilding, and, well, it certainly shows with the results of these games. They're winless in their last 3 straight, just 1-6 straight up in their last 7. Now, Muscala, Roby, Hall, Dort, Baisley, and Gilgeous-Alexander, they're all out for tonight's contest. Now, the Thunder, they haven't won too much at home this year. Just 9-16 straight up at the Chesapeake, 36% against the number in those home games. Simply put, guys, I know this sounds really simple. They don't score enough, and they don't defend enough either. I know that sounds crazy. It's just the facts. They give up nearly 117 points a game in Oklahoma City. When it comes to the scoring in this one, like I said, Oklahoma City's been giving up a ton of points recently. 3 out of their last 5 got over the line. OKC's also 15-10 to the over as the official home team. Meanwhile, the Hornets are 15-12 to the over when they travel themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Charlotte Hornets minus 5.5 in the over 214. The next contest, it is going to be Grizzlies versus the Hawks, 8 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Now, the Atlanta Hawks are minus 2.5, totals 225. If you like the Grizzlies in an upset on the road here, they're plus $1.15 for some money line cash. Now, Memphis is coming into this game a little bit banged up here. First of all, it's the second of a back-to-back for him. Second of all, Morant, Winslow, and Melton, they're all listed as questionable for tonight's action. Having said that, though, this team has really thrived as the underdog recently. They're 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 contests when catching the points. The Grizzlies are currently on a 3-game winning streak as well, and they've gotten the W in 7 out of their last 10. So this is a team that's shown grit and the ability to persevere. And if you're wondering who's going to score for the Grizzlies here tonight, believe it or not, Dillon Brooks is the team's second leading scorer. He's averaging almost 17 a night along with 2 rebounds and a couple assists. And of course, big Jonas Valanciunas, he's scoring 16 a game himself along with 12.5 boards. Now, Memphis has successfully covered the point spread in their last 9 straight against the Eastern Conference. So if you're into kind of quirky historical trends, that's certainly going to go in your favor there. They're also covering in 64% of their road games. Now they're taking on an Atlanta team who still has to go to work without John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. And as good as the Hawks have been playing recently, they're still struggling defensively late in games. Atlanta's in the bottom 10 defensively in fourth quarter points allowed. Now, total-wise, Atlanta's last two straight did fall under the line. They did stay under the total. They're also 13-9 to the under at the State Farm Arena. Meanwhile, 3 out of Memphis' last 4 stayed under the total themselves. 80% to the under in their last 10 against the Hawks. I'm going to lean toward the Memphis Grizzlies plus 2.5 and the under 225. The next ball game, it is going to be Spurs versus the Nuggets, 9 o'clock East. Denver's -7, totals 222. And despite the potential absence of Jamal Murray here this evening for the Nuggets, this Denver squad is on an absolute roll right now. 6-game winning streak, 6-2 against the number in their last 8. Denver's currently 14 games above 500 right now, and they played very good basketball at home. The Nuggets are currently 16-9 straight up at the Ball Arena. Nikola Jokic is scoring 26 points per contest, 10 rebounds, 8 assists for the Joker. Meanwhile, Michael Porter Jr. is scoring nearly 17 a game himself, along with 7.5 rebounds. Now, the Nuggets, they've been prolific scorers this year, ranking in the top 5 in both points per game and shooting the 3-ball. They've also dominated the boards defensively this year as well. They're in the top 3 in the NBA in defensive rebounding. Now, they're taking on a San Antonio team who may have to go to work here tonight without one of their leading scorers, DeJounte Murray. Now, Lyles Walker and Bates Diop, they've been ruled out. We're not going to see them in action at all. The Spurs have been playing some really bad basketball lately. 3-game losing streak, 2-8 straight up in their last 10. And as a matter of fact, their 2 most recent losses came against the likes of Cleveland and Indiana. Very bad losses there. Now, the Spurs have struggled to rebound on the defensive end of the court. They're in the bottom 3 in defensive rebounding right now. And the Spurs have also struggled offensively for most of the year as well. They're in the bottom 10 in scoring on average per contest. They're also in the bottom 10 in shooting the 3-ball on the road. Now, total-wise, San Antonio did see their last 3 straight get over the line, 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Nuggets' last 2 straight got over the total themselves. They're also 16-9 to the over on their home court. So with all that in mind, I'm going to lean toward the Denver Nuggets -7 in the over 222. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup of the show. Game of the night here. I'm talking about the Jazz versus the Suns, 10 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, the Utah Jazz are -1.5 on the road here. Totals 226. But despite another incredible win streak recently, the Jazz actually lost by nearly double digits in their last outing to Dallas. Now, the Jazz are also struggling to cover the number as of late as well. Just 1-3 against the spread in their last 4. They're also 50% against the number in their road games. So, I mean, listen, let's be honest. There's really not much that Utah does wrong. You know, it's kind of tough to, fade a team like this. But if we have to nitpick, Utah really doesn't play all that well defensively late in games on the road. The Jazz are in the bottom 10 in third quarter points allowed away from home. And even more staggering, listen to this, Utah's dead last in the NBA defensively in fourth quarter points allowed on the road as well. Now they're taking on a polished Suns team who's on a 6-game winning streak themselves, 15-3 straight up in their last 18. I mean, this is really a clash of the Titans here tonight. Phoenix is currently 21 games above 500, and they've played fantastic defense all year long. They're in the top 5 defensively in points allowed. Now, Devin Booker is scoring over 25.5 points per contest, 4 rebounds, 4 assists for Book. Meanwhile, Chris Paul's dropping 16 points a game himself, 4 rebounds, 8 assists for the multi-time All-Star. And of course, in addition to solid defense the entire season, the Suns find themselves scoring 117 points a night at home, and they're making 50% of their field goals in that same category. Now, total-wise, Phoenix did see their last 4 straight get over the number, 15-11 to the over at home. Meanwhile, Utah saw 3 out of their last 6 get over the line themselves, throwing out the Dallas game. I'm going to lean toward the Phoenix Suns plus 1.5 and the over 226. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Minnesota plus 2, under 230.5. Orlando Magic plus 3, under 222. New York Knicks plus 3.5, over 209. Brooklyn minus 9, over 231. Dallas Mavericks minus 11.5, under 222. Charlotte minus 5.5, over 214. Memphis Grizzlies plus 2.5, under 225. Denver minus 7, over 222. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 8-3 in our last 11 $1.99 daily best plays on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 74% in our last 31 extra daily pick tier package plays on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the Phoenix Suns plus 1.5 and the over 226. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into some shout outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to JRich803, Scott Kaler, Chris Justin, Lighthouse Ice Bro West. Shout out to Rasmus Lassen, Goku 5032. Shout out to my man Young Shard. Love my man Young Shard. Shout out to Dunhill Villa, Michael Kahn, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my good friend Leslie Botang. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today on Patreon, just keep in mind, we're going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you get a package here today, you're going to get access to that content through the end of April. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.